Hey everybody, William Wallace for America here, and today I'm in Slidell with Representative Bob Owens of District 76 over here, and today we're going to talk a little bit about his district, about him, and some really great stories and some really unique things that he's been sharing with me off camera that we're going to share on camera, including some things coming up about whether the governor's going to put us in phase 3 or not, and some of the plans the legislature has. But before we get started, I want to bring on Bob Owens. Thank you very much for coming on today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Well, as you know, it's my mission to not only give everybody a chance to meet our representatives and get to know about what they do, not just in a political realm, but also on a personal realm. You know, because I think it's important for people to know that you guys do this. A lot of people think y'all are doing this for for the money, but
it's definitely not for the money.
Exactly, because people don't realize this is a full-time job for part-time pay. So there's a huge part of your heart, in this position. Was that right?
Yeah, well, I did this because I love Slidell. This is my district. Basically covers the basically from the border of Mississippi and Louisiana all the way to the Twin Spans in Slidell. So it's a small but compact district. So
do you go like to the water edge there? I guess if you keep on going,
yeah.
Isn't that where the Bogey Creek monster lives or whatever?
Yeah, the Honey Island Swamp Monster.
Honey Island Swamp Monster.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Did he vote for you?
Yes.
Okay.
Mail-in ballot though.
And you heard my podcast on mail-in ballot. That makes him legit, I'm sure. Well, so we know that's where your district is, and now how far east or how far west do you go?
So I'm basically all the way to south to the Gulf, and then north to Pearl River. So it stops basically at Pearl River.
So basically, are you almost all of Slidell?
Mainly, yes, and then
Okay.
and then the other half is Mary Dubuisson.
Okay,
she has the other half.
Which I interviewed Mary Dubuisson a few weeks back.
Oh, really? Yeah.
We had a good interview in there.
Yeah, she's great. She's my seatmate too. So,
oh, okay.
Yeah. I've known Mary since I was a kid. Actually, it was she's friends with my mom. Grown up, and so we've known each other for as long as I can remember.
You said friends with your mom. She has a nickname. I think she's like the mom of the state, or the representative, or something. Isn't she like the mom of the legislature or something?
So she brings snacks to everybody all the time. I call her Mary Queen of Snacks.
Okay. Mary Queen. Well, she's just a caring person.
She is.
It's good to know we have those people here in Slidell.
She's awesome. She's one of my favorite people of all time. So
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, what industry makes up your district primarily?
So we are. It's a strange mix. So we have a lot of people who work in oil and gas. Of course, it's Louisiana,
right?
Obviously. There's a lot of people who work in New Orleans. CBD. That area. So we have a lot of. It used to be that Slidell was like a bedroom community. We had a lot of people that would come over here. NASA was a big. Growing up,
right.
We had tons of engineers here.
Speaking of NASA, that big building, the secret one where they say there's like 10 floors down below. Do they tell you those secrets?
They have never. I still am not privy to that information yet.
Okay. At least you don't know on camera. So you always finish what you're saying. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So and then tourism is a big one here too. People don't realize how much tourism we have in Slidell. We have a humongous swamp tour operation. Here in Slidell, we have 3 huge swamp tour companies here, and they bring in like thousands and thousands of tourists in here every year. So,
oh wow!
Yeah, so that's a big operation as well.
Have they ever seen the swamp monster?
We've had a couple of the tour guides have.
He comes up every so often, I'm sure. I'm like, well, yeah.
And I grew up on the river, so I literally grew up on the Pearl.
Did you really?
Yeah. So that's my area. I mean, I still live on the Pearl. So I had a boat before I had a car. I used to actually drag my boat down the street. We used to put it on a skateboard and we'd launch it by hand, and my dad would pick it up on the way home.
Yeah. That's a good. So on your skateboard, you didn't bring it down.
Yeah, we'd push it down the street and we'd launch the thing by hand. So
that's neat. That's a neat little story. Well, so you say that it goes all the way to the Pearl River.
Yes.
So I guess that's it's a flooding thing that you have to say flooding issues.
Flooding is a huge issue in St. Tammany, and it's not only the Pearl River But then we have storm surge, which is a whole different issue, you know.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's one of the reasons I ran is you know, we're looking. I really want to get a floodgate at the Wrigley's and you know, basically at Chef Pass and at the Wrigley's, and that would essentially cover the entire New Orleans metro area. So it would cover Mandeville, all of St. Tammany, Tangipahoa, all of New Orleans. It would basically, essentially, we would be all covered from flood protection. You know, in terms of like if another Katrina came.
Right. That's actually a great idea. I haven't heard this idea put out there before. But I mean, so by you, see, this is one of the reasons why I like people get to know our representatives, because here's a representative in Slidell, and you would think that it might not affect you that much having a representative has this idea in Slidell, but your idea would affect Mandeville, it would affect Lacombe, it would affect Metairie,
St. James Parish. I mean, everybody on Lake Pontchartrain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, even Motor Park. So you always hear about those areas getting flooded, and it's basically from where the water's being pushed in through the Wrigley's, and this little idea of yours would stop that.
Correct. And it's really an easy thing. All you have to do is slow the water down. You don't even have to stop it completely, which is, you know, and they've already done the studies. That's the thing. It's like the CPRA has already done the studies on this, and so it's been done. It's been shown to be effective. The only thing that we have to do is get Mississippi on board, which they
because here's Mrs. So if you see our little Louisiana map back here, we've got Mississippi.
And actually, it's perfect because we can actually run the thing down the L&M Railroad, which is already essentially a levee.
Right in here, right?
Yeah, and you know, it would protect Port Bienville. It would protect you know, all of Waveland and parts of Bay St. Louis, past Christiane, that whole area, and you know, not to mention, you know, all of our area as well. So it basically, you know, you're talking about the whole, you know, the whole Gulf Coast region from here all the way to Bay St. Louis, essentially.
Yeah, all this area gets protected.
Yes.
So you're talking about bringing a floodgate through, like blocking off Lake Bourne right here?
No.
It's over in this area.
Yeah, it's just a small levee system, you know, and it's basically just along the railroad, which has zero environmental impact.
That's amazing. That's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
And that alone cost Louisiana, well, of course, there's federal dollars in there too.
Right.
But when Hurricane Katrina came through, that's what brought down the twin spans originally.
Right. Was
that same flood surge, and so your idea would stop that.
Correct.
That's amazing. Well, this is something to keep our eyes on.
Yeah.
You know,
that's one of the things I plan on doing. You know, in the next few years. So that's
okay.
That's one of my big goals. So.
And that's at even though it helps the rest of the state, Slidell is the arrow of the point of the arrow that takes the full brunt of that, which is flooding's a big issue in Slidell.
Right, and that's that, you know, that is where the gates are going to be. So
right,
you know, it's the center point. So
I hope to see you out there with a bottle of champagne, breaking it on the wall, not drinking the bottle of champagne, just busting it on the wall to christen it. So what's your background anyway?
So I started out actually this is a crazy story. I started out in politics actually, but it was in the business of politics. So I was a lobbyist years ago, an issue lobbyist, which is a little different than regular lobbyists. But I was a bouncer in a bar in Slidell, and you know, I was 18 years old. I was working at this club in Slidell called Bimini Bay. And
I've heard of it. Never been there, but I've heard of it.
And the owner asked me, he said, it was during the whole drinking age. You know, I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, I remember they were trying to raise it from 18 to 21,
Correct.
And everybody was up in arms about it.
Right. So the owner asked me if I was in college at the time, I was at LSU, and he said, "Look, he said, I know you can speak well. I know you're at LSU. He said, would you like to go testify in a committee of the legislature?" And I said, about the drinking age. And I said, sure, you know, that'd be, you know, I said, I'm definitely interested in doing that. So, he sent me up to Baton Rouge, and I went and met with one of the lobbyists up there, and sat down, and he said, look, he said, all you have to do is read this little script. He said, nobody's going to ask you any questions. It's going to be really easy. So I went up there, I sat down, was reading the script, and after reading this thing, all of a sudden everybody on the committee started just drilling me with questions, and I was like, oh, I was not prepared for that at all. But I was like, well, I might as well answer these questions. I'm just going to go ahead. So I was like, well, here we go, and so I answered everything as best as I could, and I tried to stand my ground as much as I could at that time.
Right.
You know what I mean? I was a kid, and so afterwards, I got done. I sat down, and George Brown, who was the most powerful lobbyist of the state at the time, comes up to me, and he was kind of a Huey Long kind of character,
Right.
And he was from that era, So he comes up and he's son, you did good up there. He said, you ever think about doing this for a living? And I was like, I didn't realize you could do this for a living.
What? You mean I can just talk for a living?
So he goes, well, come see me on Tuesday, and we'll talk about this. So I ended up doing that for a few years, and it was a great experience. I mean, it was really, that's kind of where I cut my teeth, and on top of that too, my mentor at LSU, I ended up getting a communications and political communications degree, and my mentor over there was Dale Thorne, who was Edwin Edwards' old press secretary.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I was like, it was just a weird,
it's having all these connections and stuff like that.
Yeah, not that I'm in any way a Democrat, but
exactly.
But it was a good, he was a good mentor to have, just in terms of, the mechanics of, how to get your message out and things along those lines. So.
Well, the good thing about that I want to point out is that you've got experience on the other side, knowing, it's almost like when you've got a DA that goes from, or an attorney that goes from the, he defends, people who are, he's a criminal attorney defending people who are going to jail or possibly going to jail, and they flip to the prosecutor's side.
Yeah.
It's almost like that a lobbyist going to be an elected official. It's like the other side.
Right, and I will tell you this, it is good to know that perspective. Just as what one of the things about term limits that I'm a big proponent of term limits.
Me too.
But the only downside of term limits is it does make the lobbyists more powerful, and it does make agencies more powerful. And that's the only problem, is because those people they've been around for years.
There's not a term limit for a lobbyist.
Right.
Yeah.
So those guys have been around, and they know the system. They know how to work everything. So when you have the young people that come in, they're just fresh out of the field. They have no clue what these guys' agendas are, and so I kind of have an understanding of that a little bit. And some things have changed through the years, obviously.
So what I'm hearing what I'm hearing that when everybody else to hear is that when you got involved in politics, knowing the other side, you are aware of the best way to serve the people of your district, and their interest, because you're aware of the other side, you're aware of what goes on, and now you know the best way to represent the people of your district.
Yeah, and I know where the downsides are.
Yeah, and you know what to stay away from to be able to help the people of your district.
Right, exactly.
I like that. Yeah. I like that. And take note. I've watched. I've seen you in the legislature. I've seen you. I've been in the gallery. I've been up in the balcony. And watching you work hard for the people of your district, and they should know that. So what is the most? So you say flooding was one of the most important things in your district. But what do you think is the most important pressing issue for Louisiana?
Well, right now it's COVID, obviously. I mean, and getting the state reopened.
You're all about that.
Oh, absolutely. Okay. I mean, 100%. So
I'll let you tell that story that you told me off camera if you want to tell it. But what's the most answer? With the most, I guess, the most pressing things for Louisiana is COVID. You said.
Yeah. So COVID. I mean, we have got to get our state open. I mean, that is the bottom line. So. The bars and the restaurants and everything, it's just killing me not having these places open. I mean, there's been a few places just in Slidell alone in the past week that have closed down, and we can't have this. I mean, it's killing our state. There is a petition out there that could reverse Governor Edwards' emergency orders.
Is that the Schneider bill or
The CBAW.
the Seaball
Petition.
Seaball petition?
The problem with the CBAW petition, the reason I have not signed it, is
This is important. I want everybody to hear this.
yeah, and the reason, and I would love to sign it. I would love to overturn the John Bell Edwards orders like right now. I mean, it would be the greatest thing ever. The problem with the CBAW petition is that by signing that, you're canceling all emergency orders for 60 days, which means any kind of hurricane protection is off the table. And in a place like Slidell, where you're right next to the lake, and I watched the eye of Katrina come over my head, and I watched the destruction that Katrina did to my community, and I can't put that on my people.
So I want to add on to that a little bit. So if weeks ago the Seaball petition would have gotten would have gotten signed and null and voided the governor's ability to shut down the state, which would have would have taken the powers to take an emergency declaration away. Lake Charles
would have had some serious issues.
Would have had serious issues.
So there's upwards of about 20 different government agencies that are called out to an emergency situation. Now, state police, obviously can be, they have their own kind of jurisdiction, things along those lines. But like National Guard, Family and Human Services, there's all kinds of different agencies that come out in a hurricane situation that people don't even realize,
That so basically, if you all would have taken that power away from him to shut down the state,
right,
he would not have had the power to call out National Guard and other resources that are helping the people of Lake Charles. So hindsight, and this is 2020, I guess, but you knew back then.
Right. Now, at the same situation though, when the reason I know this, I spoke to Steve Scalise's office, Kennedy's office, Cassidy's office. The only office that said that wouldn't happen was Garrett Graves. When I spoke to the Attorney General's office, they said that and of course I haven't gotten this in writing, so I'm sure I can't
exactly. I understand.
But they basically said that we needed a more specific type of petition. That more specific type of petition looks like it will be coming out shortly, within probably the next few days.
So basically you're saying that if our Governor Edwards does not open up or not bring it back into phase 3 or open it up, there is a backup plan that is being worked on about
right now.
That you'll be able to sign, because it has specific language in it that not only helps our state but also protects certain functions that we need.
Let's put it this way. There's a more specific petition that is out there that will be coming out shortly.
I like that.
Yes.
Because a lot of people we're ready to open the state.
It has to be opened up.
Exactly.
We're sick and tired of this.
I'm glad you pointed this out, because there's a lot of people who are very upset about the representatives who didn't sign the bill, and some of them have different reasoning from what you have. But I think it's very important to note, and I'm bringing this out in the video because that way people are informed.
Right.
That's the whole object here is, and do this in a friendly way so that way people know, is that your district, as we've talked about the whole time, is really affected by flooding, and it's really affected by hurricanes and storm surges. So representing the people of your district, had you signed that petition opened up, your district could have been affected by flooding or the response to it, we'll say,
right,
had you taken those powers away from the governor at the same time.
Correct. And it's one of those things. I am the most pro-business person. I am in no way a rhino in any shape or form. I mean, I vote Republican on almost every issue. I mean, there's very, very few times that I vote against the Republican Party in any way, shape, or form. But I couldn't vote on this because it was like taking a bulldozer to
basically going over the will of the people, will of your district.
Yeah, right.
And I like pointing that out for this reason. As I talk to Democrats all over the state and other Republicans and people in the state, I find that this legislature works together really, really well. But when I talk to individuals, I find that they're also listening to the people of their district, which I think is really important. You might not always vote the way other people in the state want you to vote, but you want your district to know that you're listening to them and you're voting. They're the ones who elected you.
Right.
And it's not, but you're not doing this to stay in office, air quotes, stay in office. You're doing this because you really care about your district and you care about the people in your district and their individual concerns, and that's doing your job.
Right. And I mean, I love Slidell. That's the reason I ran.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. So,
Is there anything?
But I want Slidell to stay viable. I do. I mean, I want the business to stay open. So we have to reopen Slidell. We have to.
At least we know you're looking for ways. You're looking for ways. It sounds to me like you've worked with a group that's getting ready to announce a new petition that's going to come out that's going to help do just that. Next session's coming up in a couple of months.
Right.
What can we look out for in the next session? Is there anything you're working on, or anything you want to talk about for the next session?
So honestly, my background since starting out in politics, I've done a couple of things. I actually worked in tourism for a little while. So I got involved in the swamp tour business, and then I worked in New Orleans for a little while in tourism. Then it's one of those things. I'm 5 generations of medical doctors, even though I'm not one.
Oh, love it.
But
right.
my great
you broke a tradition.
Yeah, my great grandfather was he was the second Surgeon General of Louisiana, and then it's been all my grandfathers and great grandfathers all the way down to my brother have been physicians ever since, and so of course. I ended up in the medical business. It was one of those things. So my father invented a product a few years back, and it was a product for people with diabetes. And he's a physician and a scientist, and
right.
And so he had no real business experience. So he said, are you interested in coming in and developing this this product? And so we went in together, and we basically started out of a closet right down the street from here, and it grew it basically to start out of retail, and then wholesale, and then finally we're now a regional business. We sell to hospitals, clinics, independent pharmacies throughout the Southeast. So
helping people with diabetes.
Yes, yeah. So that was our first business, and then a few years ago we got into we essentially expanded the clinic business that we had. And got into corporate medicine, which was just kind of a new up and coming thing
right.
at the time, and so we expanded that business, to where we grew that into several different clinics, throughout the Gulf South. So it's been a good business, and we've done that as well. So that's kind of what we've been doing for a few years. So I asked to be on the Health and Welfare Committee. And one of the things we plan on doing, most
you have experience in it.
Oh yeah, and I do it. We do it on a regular basis.
Is that the committee you're on?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's probably my most influential role as a legislator is on the Health and Welfare Committee, and being on that committee, I really have I do have a lot of influence there, just
right.
because of my background. But there's a few things that I want to do there. Essentially, most people don't realize that 18% of the federal budget goes, and our state budget actually, it goes towards, actually more than that, goes towards, essentially in our taxes, goes towards Medicare, Medicaid.
18%.
Mm-hmm. And it's just a lot of it's waste, honestly. I mean, it's really just we're overpaying for some things, underpaying for other things. Not paying some people enough for some services, and we're overpaying other people for ridiculous services.
Right.
You know what I mean? So there needs to be a lot of transparency there, and that's one of the things I plan on doing is creating some more transparency in the system.
Kurt Talbot and Stephanie Hilford, I think, both were involved in some kind of legislation that had a bill that came out where you have to know what the prices are before.
Right. So that was one of my bills that I had coming up this session. It was called the Louisiana Right to Shop bill.
Okay.
Now, what I was doing was essentially it was radiology and outpatient lab services, and this opens the door. Essentially, is what it would do. it was kind of screwy because the physicians were the ones who blocked the bill. And it was just because they didn't realize what was going on with the bill.
Well, this is why they needed to have somebody inform them. But
and it's one of those things. It was such a short session that, we just didn't have time to put everything. We basically had to limit our bills to just a few. I think we had a fourth of the bills that normally come out.
Right.
And so we only had a few bills that came through. By the time that I actually got my bill into committee and was able to actually get it through the process, we just didn't have the time to get all the people involved, and it was a shame. But I'm going to bring it back next time. But
in the spring.
Yeah. So basically, what it is you would be able to see what the price of your what your outpatient services were before you actually with insurance. Before you actually had the service done, which is hello,
exactly.
Like everything else. I tell people,
you don't want to get a bill later and say, wait, I paid how much for that Band-Aid?
Well, think about it. Like any other business that would do that in the United States, that would be considered fraud.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's like if you went you paid for a service and said, okay, well, I'm gonna I expect to pay $20 for this, and then all of a sudden you got a bill for $800. It's like, well, this is not fair. You can't do that in any other business, and
Well, and it's a way to add a little oversight in a way that helps keep a company from taking advantage of some people that might have really good insurance or really but it affects people. But it really affects people who have really high deductibles, right. I guess.
Well, and the thing is, part of what we do in our business is we would negotiate all these costs ahead of time for other businesses. So we know what the cost is for all these services, and the labs know what the cost is for these services. The radiologist knows what the cost is for all these services. These are really simple things that they already know what these costs are. Mm-hmm. They already know what the insurance companies are going to pay. This is not rocket science.
So your bill in the spring is to add transparency.
That's it.
What do we have to look forward to this next session coming up in the next couple of months?
The special session is basically just going to be a budget shortfall bill a session. We're just going to be filling in holes. I think is mainly what we're going to be doing from COVID. Which has to be done.
Right. Yeah. We have a bunch of them right now.
Yeah. I mean it's. Now, it doesn't look like it's going to be as bad as we thought. Thankfully, we had a meeting yesterday about it. At first we thought it was going to be upwards of $1 billion, in terms of shortfall. We're looking at maybe 300 to 500 million, which sounds like a lot, but it can be remedied. So, we can move some things around and hopefully try.
Because Louisiana's had a kind of a double, if not a triple whammy now, because oil prices dropped, so those revenues are down, and then of course with COVID hitting and businesses down, is there a percentage that they know now how much revenue Louisiana's lost because of COVID? Or are the higher ups kind of keeping that in their vest?
We're not going to know that yet till probably the end of the year is before we have any real figures on that. And we might get some budget numbers a little bit before, but the agencies really are the ones who give us those numbers. So we're going to have to wait and see on those.
Hopefully they'll have that soon, so so you can adjust.
Right.
And well, this is one of the reasons I like bringing people on to the show and like giving out people the opportunity to meet our legislators, find out what they do. I know that on a personal level, but also on a business level and for our people in our state. Because as you've seen, that the actions of a representative in Slidell can affect can affect things throughout our whole entire state, especially with the flood wall idea, and of course with this new thing coming out with this new petition that's going to be announced any day now. And here you've had a chance to hear that they've been working on this behind the scenes. After that last petition that didn't go through. And I want to thank everybody for listening today. And if you've liked the video, please share it. Please comment. Write down some comments. If there's a question you have for Representative Owens, you can always put that in the comments and we'll pass that along. And I want to thank you very much for coming on today. Hey, Bob, thank you so much. I appreciate the time, and everybody else. Look forward to some more great videos here on William Wallace for America. Thank you so much.